Hello, everybody in IT Nation. Sean Lardo here again from ConnectWise with my good friend Patrick Beggs. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Sean, man. Always looking forward to this chat.
Right?
Right?
Are you now?
Never
Actually,
know what's going to happen, right?
I do know you're looking forward to it, especially after we did in the green room right before where I didn't realize you were the wiki of information security. And that's go ahead.
Some of it is quite useless history information. Some of it is very relevant. But yeah,
okay.
Trivial Pursuit, I'll take you any day, bro. Any day.
But I think that comes along with the fact of good, like as being a father, we always have useless information.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So now you add that with you being a CISO, right, and information security, right, and so you're bound to have both, right? So I think it comes with the territory. Hey, I'm trying to help you here, Patrick. All right, I'm trying to make it better. So we are here again for another installment of the ConnectWise Information Security Series. Patrick is the expert. I'm just here for the ride. But before we get into the series and talk about things, just to give you a couple of housekeeping notes, want to make sure everybody remembers, we're like 2 weeks away from IT Nation Connect, the best event of the year.
What is it? What are we doing?
IT Nation Connect.
That's right.
Will be in just a couple weeks from now. If you haven't registered, I'm not sure why. I'm sure maybe you were on vacation, probably stranded on an island.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, and right there, look. Yep, see, look at that. We even use like promo codes for you guys, so we're still giving away $50 off of your registration using ITN Social 50. So make sure you guys do if you have not yet. I've been going to this for years. You will be able to hang out with me and Patrick. And speaking of which, our next episode will be recorded right from there live.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited. I've been promoting this. We've been getting some asks about this live series. I mean, I got my oldest son. One of his professors wants to stream this in 2 weeks, man. So on their communications class. So maybe this is an example of how not to communicate. I don't know, but I'm excited. The word is getting out, be it good or bad. So
we welcome all feedback.
There we go.
No, let me clarify. We welcome all constructive feedback. And actually, we do want your feedback because there was something that you want us to talk about or something that can help you all. We kind of need to know this so we can dig in for you all. But this week, we're going to be talking about the evolution of phishing. And not phishing like fly fishing, which was actually very, very comforting, right? It's a very soothing exercise. However, but phishing itself. So let's start with, and this is, now that you told me this, well, first we'll start, what is phishing, Patrick, first?
Phishing, I mean, it is essentially the analogy, right? It fits quite well, right? Phishing is, I throw something into a body of water and I hope to get something on my hook, right? Same concept is obviously it's tailored. It's meant for email, right? As we talked about in the history of email, right?
That's where I'm going with this. That's the next question.
I don't think it took long for someone to send you an email wanting you to click on something, right? To get on their hook. Just leave it at that. We'll just leave it.
That's fair. So it's simply saying it's a way in which they try to lure us into their whatever it is they want to go to.
That's phishing. Yeah.
Exactly, right?
So in my life. So, yeah.
When did that term come about?
The phishing. What's that?
The term phishing term. What year did that come out? Because you just said some year.
96? Something like that?
No way. Why did it come out in 1996?
Well, that is when I believe is one of the first large source commercial email platforms arose. Right? You remember our what was it? Our AOL days, AOL email. Even before that, if somebody can name in the chat, name some early email providers. Right? I mean, we go way back in the history, right? So.
Oh my Lord, yes.
I still have a Hotmail address, Sean. I still have a Hotmail address. It's vintage, I call it now. So.
It has been.
Yep, 1998 is when I took it.
I love it. I'm good. I appreciate the back to bad dad jokes and bad useless data. I totally appreciate that. Okay. So I'll throw a stat out there we can start talking about.
Yeah.
2021 Verizon data breach investigation report that phishing attacks accounted for 36% of all data breaches analyzed.
That's on the low. I think that's conservative, Sean, to be honest with you. Yeah.
You do?
Yes. Unfortunately, with data breach reporting, the data is only as good as what is reported, right?
Yes.
And a lot of folks don't have regulatory, compliance, privacy. Oh, some topics we're going to get to in some later sessions. But it's what is reported to. The volumes, I mean, just at a company that ConnectWise, the size that we see on a weekly, monthly basis, right? Now, we're not on the compromised side, but the attempt side, right? So it's a lot of averages for sure. So that number is probably quite larger, but that does paint the picture of just how big of a problem it is. So.
Sure. I like that you're from the first person perspective, because, you know, when we got ready for IT Nation Secure, we put together a breakout on, you know, cybersecurity, what a CISO does, but actually what an MSSP does ultimately, right? Because you are essentially an MSSP within a large organization.
Essentially, I am. My responsibility is to protect ConnectWise, its digital infrastructure from bad folks, right? But also our partners as well that use our products, right?
Yep.
And we could go down the road as well. Folks have challenged MSPs that use our products but don't necessarily use us as security. Contact us all the time, and we help them, regardless of if they're paying us or not. You know why? Because it's the right thing to do.
Right. Absolutely. Well, okay. So everybody understands what phishing is now at this point, I would hope, and we've heard it for years. And I want to get into preventive methods, but I mean, that could go on forever, right? But if you think of the first thing that you should do, what's the first thing that somebody should do to keep themselves away from a phishing attack?
I'm going to talk right now. It's a human element. It's something we do on a regular basis at ConnectWise. It's talk about the problem. If we don't talk about the problem, nothing is going to be done about it. We do information security awareness, our annual training, right? Everyone probably has at some level some sort of, information security training that they put their employees through, and they talk about phishing in that training, right? But you need to have folks that are talking and having these conversations on a regular basis, because it's the whole see something, say something. That is the best front line is human awareness that something that doesn't look right in their inbox is probably something they shouldn't open, right? Even if it's from someone they recognize or an organization recognize, if it doesn't look right, don't freaking click on it, right? But it comes down to, as we've talked to you the last session, people, process, and technology. It is people and process first. Technology will always be there to do what it can do, but there's limitations of that, of course.
So let's talk about that. So really, a company should identify the process and the people long before they worry about the technology.
I mean, I think you have to have a balance. I'm not going to say one over the it's a triad, right? It's something that all three are important, of course. Phishing awareness, awareness training, perhaps. If you have the ability to do it, we test our own employees on a quarterly basis. And let me tell you, it's not some weak stuff either. We throw some hard fish tests at them. We outsource that. We also have the ability to do it internally. But there's a lot of cheap to even free resources out there that can be done in that manner as well. So.
Okay. So still I always believe that the order is process, then people, then technology, right? Because you determine a process and what to do it. And so, you guys have sent me the phishing, test that I passed.
You can stop clicking on this. I would appreciate that.
Well, I'm just testing to see if you guys are paying attention. But, no. And so the next question I always get from MSPs even, okay, so you do a phishing, you do the test, right?
Yep.
And then what?
Right.
Whether I pass or fail, what are you doing as an organization?
So what we do, the goal is to have, we do it by, it's all about data, right? I'm a data person, that, it's understanding the populations that clicked on it, right? Mm-hmm. Ultimate goal is to have no one click on it. We know perfection is what do they can gets in the way of progress, right? We understand that there's going to be mistakes made. Point being is when somebody does click on it and they do fail the test, that they're contacted. There's a conversation that's had, or they're just automatically re-enrolled in some training for better awareness for those types of things, to be better aware of what is something that they should be opening and clicking on versus what they shouldn't be. What are some of the common techniques used by scammers and cyber criminals, right, to lure them in, right? There's themes that are out there right now, literally probably coming at ConnectWise right now that our technology and processes are blocking, right, or quarantining, right? And there's a lot of good resources and communities out there that share information on relevant, what we call campaigns, right? That they can say, hey, heads up, right? There's a new one out there. Be aware of that that Amazon gift card or that the Barbie movie. My gosh, the Barbie movie theme was a huge campaign when that first came out. So yeah.
I'm laughing about being the Barbie movie, which makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And now that you talked about that, this is about the evolution of phishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from day one in 1996, obviously it's changed, it's improved. They've gotten more work, and there's things like spear phishing now, which it's so funny that I love that it all relates to phishing legitimately. So let's talk about that.
I get spearphished on a regular basis. My CFO or any organization at key roles gets spearphished. And let me tell you, they do their homework on you. They go to your LinkedIn, right? They look at things that maybe you have posted or that your organization has posted, and they craft emails that are so good. The spear phishing is very pointed, right? It's very targeted. Phishing in general, they think of it as more of a net. They kind of put together a half email, right, with a malicious link, right, and they just try to get a best bang for the buck. They throw it to as many folks as they can. They spam it out, right, and hope somebody clicks on it. Spear phishing, used by more commonly back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s by nation states, right, targeted at defense contractors, government employees to get to get them to obviously to click on something and for their computer to be what we call owned. But spear phishing is something. It's very precise. They're much more mature in the validity of how they look, right? Because usually it's crafted by something you might be expecting, right?
So they're personalizing it.
Yes, there you go. That was the word I was looking for. Thank you.
I'm here for translation all day long.
So,
English translation all day.
Yeah. Yes. So it's very personalized. Like Patrick, I maybe a blog I did about multi-factor. You and I just talked about multi-factor last week. By the way, I got several sketchy LinkedIn messages after that, right? And I'm like, I'm not, and they were from people I wasn't connected to. I wasn't touching these things. I get them in my inbox. Sometimes they make them past our filters, right? And once in a while they'll land in my inbox and I'll see them. But I'm a trained professional in that manner, right? It's not easy actually for some of the average folks out there. I mean, we could talk about the MGM hack. There's some lessons learned there as well.
Oh dear Lord, yes.
How that happened, but that we could get into a lot of the big compromises on some of the way they were compromised. It was because it was from, an email coming from someone that they were expecting an email from, right?
Right.
But there were indicators within those emails that probably, if you'd taken a closer look, wasn't, just something wasn't right there. So
right, and that makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about SMishing and Vishing.
Okay.
I mean, what is that?
SMishing is SMS. So right, it's phone.
Is that the text I keep getting from Jason McGee telling me about gift cards?
So yes, it is actually usually. Mobile phone records are actually they're commoditized on the dark web, on the normal web. Right. There's actually services out there that sell in bulk, phone book. It's just a phone book. It's all it is. Right. With numbers. Right. It's not usually it's pay for play type of thing. But point being is instead of it being delivered via email, it's delivered via text. Right. That whole UPS or USPS is a common
FedEx. Yep. The FedEx ones, the Amazon ones you get now too.
So all it is just a different delivery mechanism. The problem with SMS is they're not as conditioned to have their mentor filter on to not click on it. A lot of folks are very fast in working on their phones, and they get a text in, and perhaps the SMS, the SMishing, that's still more bulk. Think of the bigger net. It's very rarely tailored and tagged. I mean, not rarely, but it's just not as common. And folks are more apt to click on something, especially younger generation too. Think about it. My teenagers get them. They get them all the time, right?
Right.
I feel sorry for them having me as a father because they know not to click on anything. But I think it's just from overhearing conversations like this. Right. But yeah, so the younger generation gets them more as well, but also in the older generation as well, because of lack of awareness. So there's big challenges.
But so I guess as far as SMishing doesn't have to be personalized because people, when they text, it's not formal typically.
Right.
You're receiving I know it's you because I gave you my number. So
how much worse is your grammar in an SMS text, right, versus an email, right? And some of the indicators that we filter for and some of the technology that's out there really does, because phishing, not spear phishing, but phishing tends to come from areas of the world where they don't speak English so well, right? It's not their first language. And so their context and their grammar in these emails aren't that great, right? And so that's some of the discoverable data points that some of the technology and the filters use to weed it out, right? On the SMS side, not so much. We just fire. Oh my gosh, I don't even do spell check on my texts. They're horrible. Yeah. But point being,
which makes sense. So it doesn't have to be personalized. It doesn't, and people are used to it. They're used to that fat thumbing, that fat fingering that they do, right? And that's the thing. So as far as and then Vishing, what's Vishing?
Oh gosh. So Vishing we're rewinding the clock, man. We're doing rest in peace, Kevin Mitnick, recently passed away, right? Was one of the original social, such as what we call our, social media social engineering hackers, right? And Vishing is back to basics, using the phone, right? But it's more than just calling and say, hey, this is Sean. I need to reset. I need to talk to your system administrator. They need to reset their password. It's more complex than that. We actually did a kind of an internal presentation about the MGM hack, and that actually was initiated. The MGM, the casinos in Las Vegas, got hit with a pretty big ransomware event. They actually had to shut down all of their systems for about 10 days, which was just horrible. But the point of entry there that they exposed was, somebody calling into their IT help desk and basically socially engineering their way into access into their system. So they used the phone system to do it.
So I have a stat here. The 2021 voice fraud report by the IE group estimated that voice fraud losses would reach 14 billion globally by 2024.
Yep.
With Vishing being a significant contributor.
I can also tell you folks, here's a PSA out there, right? For mobile banking, right? Your 99.9% of the banks will never call you and ask for security identification. This is Vishing, okay? So a lot of the times these folks that buy in bulk stolen credit card information that's still valid, right? A lot of times, they have your name, your address, your valid phone numbers, right, as a part of what they bought on the dark web, and they'll use your card. And it'll get denied, right? And they want you to see that your card got denied, and then they call you and talk about fraudulent behavior on your account, right? And then they'll ask for some verification. All they're trying to do is get the verification code that then they're going to use to call the actual real bank, right, et cetera, to get access. So,
okay, so that takes me to a personal thing that happened to me one time. I got a call from Amazon. They said, that's right, correct. So my official response to them was, "Yeah, no, I'll talk to you later."
Yes.
And that was the end of it. Don't give them anything else to work off of.
So the same thing for your IT administrator. Check into the rules from your IT shop at the company you work for. It's nothing wrong with it. Say, hey, when would you call me? Right? What would be the reasons you would call me and ask for any information other than my name? Right? Talk to your CIO shop, right, and understand what those rules of the road are for what they're and also there's a good thing internally for folks to put out. Here are the times we would actually contact you and ask you for anything. And I tell you right now, it's probably really small for any type of organization. That's again the type of awareness and tools that folks can do to help protect themselves and their companies. So
okay, so the number one media being used today from everybody is social media, right? Take your pick. It doesn't matter which platform you're on. Yep. At our age, it's Facebook because we make demographic. But
I'm on the gram, dude. I'm on the gram, right?
Is it called the gram or is it called Insta? I don't know whatever.
I don't snap that.
So no, but okay. So phishing through social media. Let's talk about that. How do attackers actually leverage that?
So great use case. So as I mentioned, LinkedIn, right? Here we'll pick on LinkedIn a little bit, right? There's a messaging mechanism to LinkedIn, right? And say Patrick begs, if for some reason, we won't go down the road of how my account gets compromised, but there has to be a patient zero, as we talked about last week with MFA, right? Or 2 weeks ago. But from one way, shape, or form, somebody gets my LinkedIn account or somebody's LinkedIn account gets compromised, right? And what they do is they actually put some work into it, and they can't say, Sean, say you're within my organization, you're within my company, right? They send a message on LinkedIn to a fellow employee. So there's already a trust built up because that other employee they have no reason to believe that my LinkedIn account is hacked, right?
Right.
They should ask, why are you communicating with me on LinkedIn about a work topic where you should be using, right? But we've seen campaigns where the bad guys are using a compromised employee and a high up employee, right? Somebody senior in the organization. That's the best bang for their buck. And saying, listen, we have an event going on at work. Our systems are down. Here, click on this link and reset your password, right? This is a very common tactic that has been working really good in corporate America. And then the unknowing employee is just following their bosses or a senior leader's instruction because it comes from their LinkedIn profile, right? And then game over once that happens. All the bad person is getting credentials, right? For your company. Again, have MFA in place, like we talked about before. We're going to have some defensive depth there, and that bad person is not going to get very far. So,
okay, and I'll go one.
You like that? Yeah, we're doing. It's like you like that. So.
I like. We're doing well with this, and actually, that takes me back. Staying on the social media topic itself, there's cloning, right? How many times I see on Facebook people saying my account was hacked, but yet they have two accounts. I see their original one and a new one all of a sudden. Right?
Yep.
So. And I think we've all personally witnessed. There was like, oh, I can't. And actually, the one recently I remember happening was there was one of those ones like click here to see the rest of the image.
Yeah,
I can't believe they did that. I can't believe it. Have you seen this accident? And then literally you click, and then what happened? God don't know.
Can I get the PS? Unless you are expecting a link from someone. Let me say this again. Unless you are expecting a link from someone that you know and trust, right? Well, click on it.
Sure. But that's a direct, right? That's more direct. But what about I think there's a lesson on general posting. Yes. Again, back to people that actually get hacked, and there's people posting on their behalf into their feeds, right?
Right.
And that's not, so it's not even a direct message.
No.
And I think, and by nature, humans are very curious people.
They are, especially with some of the topics that people are from, and I don't even know where we call this, if it's social media phishing, right? We need to come up with our own term, right? So it's social media phishing for sure. It's still the same link they would have used to embed in an email in a normal phish, right? But they're using a more progressive platform, again, casting that larger net, and it's sensational. We've seen a lot with TikTok as well. I'll tell you, everyone loves to click on those TikTok videos, right? But it eventually takes you something, to somewhere where it's just infecting the machine or the phone that you're on, right? And a lot of the times you don't know that happened. That's how the Facebook ones happen. And is the machine, your device gets compromised, right? And then they go in and they change the password to your Facebook account, right? And then you can't access it, and then they're taking over and posting whatever they want. And it's why people have to start whole new accounts, because there isn't a whole lot of next gen capabilities unfortunately for Facebook to chase all that down.
Right. And that kind of takes me to the next thing is, we talk about like, okay, how to prevent it. What anti-phishing technologies again. And when you and I went through the practice of talking about cybersecurity and categories, we realized there was a lot of overlap and some ambiguity of what what companies do what, right?
Yeah, email security is your front line. It's one of your front lines of defenses, and along with infrastructure, obviously infrastructure security. But so many, even the native, Microsoft 365 has some really great native tools that can protect you, right? There's even some configurable rules and things like that. But even a lot of their default, it's an intelligence system. It's a 365, right? It's a cloud-based, email and office system, right? So it's constantly being updated with their threat intelligence and their indicators. Their what they're feeding into it. So a lot of it you don't even have to configure, right? I definitely will not advocate for that being just enough. But if you are running a moderately normal size organization, and I would have to assume most, if not all, folks have a security email security tool. I can name off a bunch of them, right? But but they're all out there in the sense of it is one of your lines of defenses for sure. So.
Take away the company name itself of what it is.
Yeah.
What should be the primary things they should look for when they're choosing this vendor? Whatever vendor it is, I don't care.
It all varies, but really is flexibility. You don't need to buy a 15-passenger van if it's just you and your spouse. Does that make sense? right?
Yes.
It's right sized for your organization. What are the threats? Understand the threats and your own attack surface, right? And you kind of reverse engineer it, and you look at the requirement. You come to them with specific requirements. I have a lot of mobile users, right? So trusted device and things like that. Understand your workforce and what the risks are, for your workforce, and you work backwards into that type. And that goes for any security tool, but with email, right? Customizable is really important. You like their out of the box rules and things that it can do. Say you're getting hit with a malware campaign, you want to be able to say, hey, listen, I need to block from this domain really fast, right? Because 300 of your users got hit with it, right? If your tool doesn't do that, well, you might want to ask your question why, type of things. So.
Right. No. Okay. So basically, start with the end in mind.
Yep.
Evaluate your business.
Yep.
And then make sure that whatever vendor and product you select has, well, obviously they all have out of the box, which is perfectly fine.
Right.
It'll give them a percentage of the way there.
Yep.
They have to have an element of customization because, and you kind of mentioned, if they have a lot of mobile users or whatever may be, you have to adjust for those.
Well, also taking about your geographic footprint as well, right?
Yep. Okay.
Understanding those that don't have to go too far into that, but that's could be things as well. So.
Yep. Oh, by the way, I did want to mention that if you guys have not seen, we have links in the chat that have been provided out there. I believe there's a couple of different articles. One on 7 tips for stopping phishing attacks, and then should you be offering security awareness training? That article alone, I think security awareness training should happen in general from even the company level, regardless if you hire.
Yeah, 5 people. If you have 5 people, you can go out. I mean, you need to be training them, right? And by the way, if you're going to have any type of compliance, SOC 2, PCI, you're required to do it anyways. So if you want to start your bit, it's like it's equivalent of having a business checking or a business financial account, right?
Right.
Really, we need to get to the world of where people understand. Well, security is just as important as just the basics for standing up a business, right?
I couldn't agree more. No, I only think it's even if you have 5 people. If you hire your first employee, you should have something because again, everybody, you run the risk of anything happening, and you should probably get started with good practices and discipline early.
Also, we have the trust side out there. I think my team actually did recently put something. We put out what we call awareness alerts for phishing campaigns targeted at ConnectWise users, right? And some of the stuff that the bad guys are using, it looks pretty good. I think we just posted something last week for I think it's some of our control users, right? Some phishing scams that folks were seeing, and we actually get those sometimes from our partners, and we do analysis on it, and we're like, yep, we've seen this coming out of other partners as well. We're going to put up an awareness and say, hey, look out for this. Block this if you can. If you can't, make your users aware of it.
Right. Okay. And it actually takes me to one last thing here, which is the incident response behind it. Because one thing I know,
playbooks, man. We have those, right? We have those available, right? Yeah. University.
Okay. Yeah. So explain playbooks, right? Just very high level, quickly. And
okay, real quick. My organization gets hit with 200 emails. The theme would be resetting your MFA, right? We know it's an obvious fish, not a spearfish, but 200 users, got it with the organization. It means your company was being targeted. But you got to ask the question, why? Who are those 200 users? Do they have anything in common, right? Is it targeted only at my financial organization users? That should start making your brain think, right? If you have an intelligence provider or even a cyber threat intelligence capability, have those folks put on their hats and say, listen, why are we getting these emails? Start asking the whys. Don't just block and forget, right? Because they're just going to keep coming. They might just keep coming at you in different ways, right? But also talk to your peers and talk to your communities that you're in and say, listen, I'm seeing this. Are you seeing this too, right? Very, very important, just basic things that can be done. Don't just accept that it came at you and you blocked it, right? And then just move on, right?
I think that, so what you're saying basically first is start with why. Always. Like, why is this happening? Who's this happening to? Why is it happening to them?
Yep. Right. And let's look back a little bit, We're just seeing this now. Has it been coming in and going undetected? Woof. We got to be worried about that too. So.
Or unreported?
Unreported. Thank you. Yeah, that's very important.
So I'm assuming you should probably, as the as the CISO, you should always be giving us the easiest path to report what's the incidents that are taking place that we notice.
So, I mean, here at ConnectWise, we've got a simple button in Outlook, right? You could click and say, listen, I think this can be a phish. Also, you can click it as it's spam, so it may not be malicious, but the heck of it's not, doesn't take away from your productivity. If I get a lot of spam emails every day. I do. I can't even. I'd scare you with the amount of spam emails I get that make it through to my inbox, and I report that as spam, right, from a productivity standpoint to help our systems operate more efficiently, right? Because they're unsolicited, and they also lull down your defense, your human defense, if you get them all the time, right? Which could make you more susceptible to clicking on something you're not supposed to click.
So eliminate the noise so you can focus on.
Look at you, man. I love it, dude. This is so good.
English translation. I'm good at that part. So
follow me.
Future trends, right? AI is humongous now. We've already seen, and I'll use something that's off of it that's not really cybersecurity related, but could be. I watched the interview, and they were talking about the deep fake people, and they used Tom Cruise. They showed some guy that redid his face and was everywhere. With AI generated. So however he did it. So, and that's somebody's face, which I feel like is a lot harder to do than AI generated phishing attacks.
AI generated phishing attacks we're starting to see a lot more of them. Believe it or not, they've been around. Just because ChatGPT made a big splash out last year. I actually gave some speeches a number of years ago about AI and its role, but it was more on the technical side of how phishing domains are generated and how fast they're generated, and AI being implemented with that. But fast forward to what you're talking about is the language. The language barrier that I talked about before with AI, it's perfect English, right? It's not bad. It's not put together improperly. It reads like a normal email. And oh, by the way, it says the things that probably you maybe be wanting to hear, right?
So basically we armed the 100,000 people that weren't speaking English properly, email us that we could recognize right away, with the ability to format and personalize the content and the messaging. So after taking you out.
The whole plagiarism tools that are out there now that are detecting for AI generated papers and research papers now that students are submitting that sound too good. Are we going to go is the paradigm going to shift to bad formatted emails for phishing to good ones? Spear phishing that were pretty good. Now AI, now they're almost too good, right? Or our detection control is going to start detecting for no grammatical errors, right?
No, for perfection. Literally. You're literally going to detect for perfection.
Maybe. I may have a business idea right there, man. We'll talk about that later. So,
we'll launch it. Stay tuned for January for the announcement. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up. So any last parting words you have, Patrick, for the people watching?
If you weren't expecting that email, it comes from somebody you don't know, don't click on it. Don't open it. If you have the ability to report it in your organization, report it. If not, delete it.
I like that. I would add, don't click on every social media train wreck post you see.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, it goes back to haunted houses, man. I'm not going to walk into every door. I'm not going to walk into every room in a haunted. Crazy. I'm just walking in a straight line, man.
Get in and get out.
We should have had costumes on today. That would have been a good idea, dude. Oh,
okay.
Next year.
I'm wearing my costume. I don't know. It's the best I get right now. So, all right. Well, that is all for today, man. Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate it. By the way, again, IT Nation, we'll be back on in 2 weeks, live down in Orlando.
We might have some guest appearances. Stay tuned. We might have some people crashing our party, man. So.
I'm down. And the nice thing for you and I is by the time that rolls around, it'll probably be getting colder in our area of the woods. So Orlando sounds nice this time of year. But yeah, everybody don't forget, IT Nation Connect happens in 2 weeks. See you all there. And that's all we have for today, man.
Sean, always fun. This is just going to keep evolving. Either people are going to tell us to stop, or this is going to take off. Looking forward to it.
I have children. If they even tell me to stop forever, like with bad jokes, so I'm never going to stop. So it's just motivates me. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jeff Kane, for being our social media person and running this. You're awesome.
See ya.
Noodles.